Every pilot learns one fundamental rule: pride kills. Captain Harold Voss forgot that rule, and today on Flight 258 at 37,000 feet, he's about to learn it again. Because the women he just told don't belong in aviation, one of them has 4,000 hours flying military helicopters. The other is about to save his life. And in the next 11 minutes, when both engines fail and he freezes, those women will be the only thing standing between 350 souls and disaster. It's 6:47 a.m. Tokyo Haneda Airport, Gate 94. The Boeing 777-300ER sits heavy at the jetway. Registration JA8234, bound for Los Angeles. 11 hours across the Pacific. 350 passengers, 263,000 pounds of fuel. The morning sun cuts through the terminal glass, casting long shadows across the cockpit windows. Ground crew loads the final cargo containers. Everything looks routine. Everything looks safe. Captain Harold Voss walks through the terminal like he owns it. 57 years old, 6'1", gray haircut, military short, 32 years with the airline. His captain's uniform is immaculate, 4 gold stripes sharp against navy blue, brass wings polished to mirror shine. An expensive leather-banded watch catches the light. His face carries the permanent expression of someone who's never been wrong, never been challenged, never needed to be. He learned to fly in the Air Force 1987, back when cockpits were analog and crews were men. He transitioned to commercial aviation in 1993. Flew 747s when they still had flight engineers. He remembers when computers couldn't be trusted, when pilots flew by, feel and instinct, when automation was for the weak. That world is gone. But Harold hasn't noticed. He enters the crew briefing room at precisely 0700 hours. First Officer Emma Chen is already there. 32 years old, 8 years with the airline. 500 hours on the 777. She's reviewing the flight plan on her tablet, weather systems over the Pacific, alternate airports, fuel calculations. Professional, thorough, competent. Harold doesn't see any of that. He sees a woman in his cockpit. The pre-flight briefing begins. Harold outlines the flight plan without looking at Emma. Departure procedures, ocean crossing procedures, arrival into LAX. His words are clipped, efficient, devoid of respect. When Emma mentions the bird activity warnings issued for Haneda that morning, large flocks reported near departure corridors, Harold cuts her off. He tells her he's been flying out of Haneda for 15 years. Birds are always around airports. They don't change procedures for birds. Emma nods, doesn't push. She's learned not to. Then Harold says it, the words that will define everything that follows, his exact words. Women don't belong in aviation, period. He continues, the industry was built by men, real pilots, not diversity hires checking boxes. If she wants to prove herself, she should stay quiet, follow procedures, don't question his commands. Emma's jaw tightens, but she says nothing. What can she say? He's the captain. He has the authority. The airline won't back her up. She's tried before. Standing in the corner of the briefing room is Yuki Tanaka, 39 years old, lead flight attendant for today's service. She wears the airline uniform perfectly, navy blue jacket, service pins indicating 16 years with the company, not a single detail out of place. Her dark hair is pulled back in a flawless bun. Her expression is calm, professional, unreadable. What Harold doesn't see, the slight tension in her shoulders when he declares women don't belong. What he doesn't notice, the way her eyes track him, measuring, calculating. What he doesn't know, Yuki has heard this speech before, just not in a cockpit briefing room. She heard it in the Japanese Navy before she proved every single doubter wrong. Yuki joined the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force at 21. 2006 flight school at Shimafusa Air Base. She wanted to fly SH-60K helicopters, maritime patrol, search and rescue, anti-submarine warfare. Her instructors told her the same thing Harold just said. Women don't belong in aviation. Too emotional, too weak. Can't handle stress. She graduated top of her class, logged 4,300 hours over 14 years. flew missions in the East China Sea, conducted search and rescue operations in typhoons, trained specifically on dual-engine failure procedures. Helicopters are particularly vulnerable, and the Navy drilled emergency protocols relentlessly. She left the Navy as Commander Tanaka, not because she had to, because she wanted a different life. Civilian aviation, less stress, more time with family. She took a job as a flight attendant, started over, bottom of the seniority list. Nobody at the airline knows about her background. She doesn't broadcast it, doesn't need to. She's confident in who she is. But standing in this briefing room, listening to Harold Voss, she feels that old familiar anger. The same anger that fueled her through flight school, through every dismissive comment, through every man who told her she couldn't. She keeps her expression neutral, professional. She's worked with captains like Harold before. They never last long. Their arrogance eventually catches up to them. She just didn't expect it to happen today. At 37,000 feet, with both engines failed, the briefing ends. Harold dismisses Emma with a wave, tells Yuki the cabin service should be efficient, not chatty. Passengers don't want conversation from flight attendants. They want drinks delivered quickly and then silence. Yuki nods once, doesn't argue, watches Harold leave the briefing room with that same swagger, that same certainty, that same pride. Emma catches Yuki's eye. They share a look. No words needed. They both know exactly who Harold Voss is. What they don't know yet, in 3 hours he'll need them both more than he's ever needed anyone in his life. Boarding begins at 0745 hours. Passengers file onto the aircraft, business travelers heading to Los Angeles, families starting vacations, students returning to universities, 350 souls trusting the crew to deliver them safely across the Pacific. Gate agents scan boarding passes. Flight attendants greet passengers with practiced smiles. The cabin fills slowly, methodically. Yuki works the forward galley. She helps a mother stow a stroller, shows an elderly passenger how to adjust the seat, answers questions about arrival time, meal service, Wi-Fi access. She's done this thousands of times. It's routine, professional, easy. But her mind is elsewhere. She's thinking about Harold's words. Women don't belong in aviation. She's thinking about Emma's tight jaw during the briefing, the way the first officer swallowed her anger, stayed silent, accepted the disrespect because fighting back would cost her career. Yuki knows that feeling. She lived it for 14 years in the Navy. At 0830 hours, boarding is complete. Doors close. Jetway retracts. Pushback begins. The 777 rolls backward from gate 94. Tug, pulling it onto the taxiway. Engines spool up. Two Pratt & Whitney PW4090 turbofans, each producing 90,000 pounds of thrust. The sound is a low rumble that passengers barely notice. Normal, routine, safe. In the cockpit, Harold runs through pre-taxi checklists. Emma responds to each item. Flaps set, fuel crossfeed closed, auto brake armed. Their voices are professional, clipped, efficient, no warmth, no collaboration, just Harold issuing commands and Emma confirming. Tokyo departure clears them to runway 34R. The 777 taxis slowly through the morning light. Other aircraft queue behind them, 787S, A350S, narrow bodies heading to regional destinations. Haneda is busy, always busy. Emma glances at the ATIS weather report on her screen. Wind calm, visibility unlimited, temperature 15 degrees Celsius, perfect conditions. But the bird activity warning is still there. Large flocks reported near departure path. She considers mentioning it again, decides against it. Harold already dismissed it once. He won't appreciate being questioned twice. That decision will haunt her. The 777 lines up on runway 34R, 11,000 feet of concrete stretching ahead. Harold advances the thrust levers. The engines roar to full power. The aircraft accelerates 80 knots, 100 knots, V1. Decision speed, too fast to abort, rotate. The nose lifts. The main gear leaves the ground. Flight 258 is airborne. It's 0857 a.m. Everything is routine. Everything is normal. But 10 miles ahead, at 18,000 feet, a flock of 200 migratory geese is crossing the departure path. They're invisible to radar, invisible to the crew, just birds, background noise in the sky. Harold doesn't know they're there, Emma doesn't know they're there. Tokyo departure doesn't warn them. Bird flocks are common, and this one seems to be clear of the standard departure route. Seems to be. In the cabin, Yuki finishes the safety demonstration. Passengers settle into their seats. Books open, headphones go on, laptops boot up. The cabin lights dim slightly for the long flight ahead. Yuki walks through the aisles one final time. She checks seatbelts, ensures tray tables are stowed, reminds a passenger to turn off their phone, professional, thorough, excellent at her job, but something feels off. She can't explain it, just a sense, an instinct. The same instinct that kept her alive during Navy missions, the feeling that something is wrong before you know what it is. She pushes it aside, probably nothing, probably just Harold's arrogance leaving a bad taste, probably just the normal pre-flight anxiety that never quite goes away even after 16 years. Probably. But Commander Yuki Tanaka learned long ago. Trust your instincts. They're usually right. The 777 climbs through 10,000 feet, then 12,000, then 15,000. Tokyo falls away below. The Pacific stretches ahead, vast, blue, endless. In the cockpit, Harold leans back in his seat, relaxed, confident. He's flown this route 200 times. Tokyo to Los Angeles, 11 hours, easy money. Nothing ever goes wrong on this flight. Emma monitors the instruments. Altitude, airspeed, heading, everything nominal, everything perfect. She doesn't see the flock. Neither does Harold. Nobody does, until it's too late. 18,000 feet. The 777 climbs through clear morning sky. Autopilot engaged. Flight management system guiding the aircraft along the published departure route. The cockpit is quiet except for the low hum of systems and the occasional radio call from Tokyo departure. Routine, boring, exactly how every flight should be. Harold adjusts his seat position, stretches his shoulders. 11 hours is a long time in a cockpit. He's done this flight so many times he could do it blindfolded. Tokyo to LAX, same route, same procedures, same automation doing all the work while pilots babysit computers. Back in his day, pilots actually flew the aircraft. Now they just monitor screens. He misses the old days, the real flying, the stick and rudder skills that separated professionals from button pushers. Emma scans the primary flight display. Airspeed 280 knots, vertical speed 2,500 feet per minute, all parameters normal. She's learned to work with captains like Harold. Stay quiet, do your job. Don't give them excuses to criticize. Keep your head down and wait for the next pairing with someone who actually respects you. Tokyo Departure's voice crackles through the headset. They're cleared to climb and maintain flight level 250. Contact Tokyo Control on the next frequency. Emma acknowledges immediately. Her radio work is flawless, professional, efficient. Harold says nothing, doesn't acknowledge her competence, doesn't need to. In his mind, she's just doing the minimum required. The 777 continues climbing, 17,000 feet, 17,500, and then the world changes. The flock appears without warning, 200 geese migrating south for the winter. They're directly in the flight path, massive, unavoidable. The crew has maybe 3 seconds. Emma sees them first, dark shapes against blue sky, growing larger, too fast, too close. Her hand moves toward the thrust levers, instinct to reduce power, climb slower, buy space, too late. The impacts sound like explosions. Thud, 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 thud. Multiple strikes, windscreen, fuselage, wings, and then the sickening crunch whine of both engines ingesting birds. The sound of turbine blades hitting biological matter at 300 knots. The sound of titanium meeting bone and feathers. Master caution. Lights illuminate. Red warnings flood the ECAS display. ENG-1 fail. ENG-2 fail. Simultaneously, both engines, both power plants gone. The 777 doesn't fall from the sky. Not yet. It has momentum. 18,000 feet of altitude. But without thrust, it's a glider. A very heavy, very expensive glider with 350 people on board. Harold stares at the displays. His brain tries to process what he's seeing. Both engines failed at the same time. In 32 years, he's never experienced this, never trained for this in the simulator, not in the modern glass cockpit 777. His last dual engine failure training was 15 years ago on the 747 Classic. Different aircraft, different procedures, different everything. His hands hover over the controls, frozen, uncertain. Emma's training kicks in. She reaches for the engine failure checklist on the electronic display, starts running items, airspeed, check, altitude, bleeding slowly, heading, maintain, declare emergency. Yes, she keys the radio. Her voice is steady, professional, controlled. She tells Tokyo Control they have an emergency. Dual engine failure, bird strike, maintaining 18,000. Tokyo Control's response is immediate. All traffic cleared. Vectors available for immediate return. Haneda, state intentions. Emma looks at Harold, waiting for the captain's decision, waiting for leadership. Harold's face is pale. His hands grip the yoke but don't move it. His eyes scan the instruments but don't seem to process what they're showing. This isn't supposed to happen. Dual engine failure is a 1 in 10 million scenario. Theoretical. Something you practice in simulators but never experience in real life. Except it's happening right now, Emma prompts him. They need to decide. Return Haneda or attempt a restart. Harold's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No words come out. His brain is stuck, overloaded. 32 years of experience rendered useless because he never actually prepared for this specific nightmare. Emma makes the decision. Someone has to. She tells Tokyo, Control they're returning Haneda, requests vectors and priority handling. Tokyo Control responds with a left turn heading 330. Descend and maintain 10,000. Expect runway 34R. Emergency equipment standing by. Emma banks the aircraft. The 777 turns smoothly. Flight controls still work. Hydraulics still powered by the rat. The ram air turbine that deployed automatically when both engines failed. The backup system, the last resort. But turning costs energy. Altitude bleeds away. 17,000 feet, 16,500. The aircraft is descending at 800 feet per minute. Not catastrophic, but not sustainable either. They need power. They need engines. Harold finally speaks. His voice is tight, defensive. He tells Emma to try the restart procedure. Use the QRH, the Quick Reference Handbook, the emergency checklist, the step-by-step guide that every pilot is supposed to know intimately. Emma pulls up the engine restart after failure checklist, starts reading items, fuel control switches, verify, igniters on, start switches, engage. Nothing happens. Both engines remain silent, dead. The turbines were damaged too severely by bird ingestion, compressor blades bent, turbine sections contaminated with organic material. The engines won't restart until they're inspected and repaired on the ground. Emma reports this to Harold. No restart. Engines unresponsive. They're committed to unpowered landing. Harold's breathing becomes audible, quick, shallow. He's approaching panic. The old-school pilot who never needed computers, who flew by instinct, who prided himself on stick and rudder skills. None of that matters now because dual engine failure isn't about flying skills. It's about systems management, electrical systems, hydraulic systems, APU procedures, all the things Harold dismissed as computer nonsense that real pilots don't need to worry about. Emma keeps working. She calculates glide range, 15,000 feet, 80 nautical mile range to Haneda, current distance 23 miles. They'll make it, barely, if everything goes perfectly. If the APU, auxiliary power unit, can be started to provide backup electrical and hydraulic power. She reaches for the APU start switch. Harold's hand shoots out, grabs her wrist. He tells her, don't touch that. He's the captain. He makes decisions about power plant operations. Emma stares at him. Disbelief, anger, fear. They're gliding toward the ocean with no thrust and he's pulling rank? Now? He's literally stopping her from starting the one backup power source they have? She tells him they need the APU online. It's procedure for dual engine failure. Harold insists he knows the procedures. He's been flying longer than she's been alive. Don't tell him about procedures, but he doesn't start the APU. He just sits there, hands still, gripping Emma's wrist, eyes wide, breathing fast. 14,000 feet, 13,500. In the cabin, passengers haven't panicked yet. The descent is smooth, no announcements have been made, no alarms blaring, but flight attendants know something is wrong. The engine noise changed. The cabin crew can hear it, feel it. Yuki is in the forward galley when her phone buzzes. Text from the senior purser in the aft galley. Engines sound wrong. What's happening? Yuki steps into the aisle, listens. She's spent 14 years listening to turbine engines, helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft. She knows engine sounds the way musicians know notes. The 777 engines are silent, not spooling down, not idling, silent, both of them. Her blood goes cold. She's heard this silence before, training scenarios in the Navy. Dual engine failure, the nightmare scenario that's supposed to never happen. It's happening. She walks quickly to the cockpit door, knocks. The coded knock that signals crew member requesting entry. No response. She knocks again, harder. Emergency knock pattern. The door unlocks. Emma's face appears, pale, stressed. Emma tells her they need her. Both engines failed. Captain isn't handling it well. Yuki doesn't hesitate. She enters the cockpit. Harold whirls in his seat. He shouts at her, "Get out!" No unauthorized personnel in the cockpit during flight operations. Yuki ignores him. Her eyes scan the displays. EICAS showing dual engine failure, altitude winding down, a PU not started, ram air turbine deployed, but that's minimal power. She looks at Emma. Asks for the situation. Emma explains. Bird strike at 18,000. Both engines ingested. No restart. Returning Haneda. 20 miles out, 12,000 feet. A PU not started because Harold stopped her. Yuki understands immediately. Harold is frozen, scared, in denial. Exactly what happens when pride meets reality. She's seen it before, young Navy pilots who talked big but crumbled during their first emergency. The difference? Those pilots got washed out of the program. Harold somehow made it 32 years without ever facing his limitations, until today. Yuki speaks. Her voice is calm but carries authority. She tells Harold to start the APU. Now, Harold turns on her, red-faced, furious. He doesn't take orders from a flight attendant. Get out of his cockpit. Yuki's response is simple, direct, undeniable. She tells him, start the APU or 350 people die. His choice. The words hang in the air, sharp, true. Harold's hand trembles on the yoke. He insists he knows what he's doing. He's been flying. Yuki cuts him off. His exact words don't matter. Start the APU, 11,000 feet, 10,500. The aircraft is descending faster now. Glide ratio degrading as airspeed decreases to maintain optimal glide. They're running out of time, running out of altitude, running out of options. Emma reaches for the APU switch again. This time, Harold doesn't stop her. He's staring straight ahead, defeated, broken. But Emma's hand shakes. She's terrified. She's doing everything right, but she's never done this for real. Never landed a wide body with no engines. Never faced this level of emergency with a captain who's mentally checked out. Yuki sees the fear, recognizes it, knows exactly what Emma needs. She places a hand on Emma's shoulder, tells her she's got this. Start the APU, run the checklist, fly the airplane. Yuki is here if she needs her. Something in Yuki's voice cuts through Emma's panic. The calm, the confidence, the absolute certainty that they can do this. Emma nods, flips the APU switch, waits 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The APU comes online, backup power flowing, hydraulic pumps running, flight controls responding better. Not full power, not engines, but enough, maybe enough. Emma announces the APU is online. Her voice is steadier now, more confident. She tells Tokyo Control they're at 10,000 feet, 15 miles to Haneda. Landing checklist. Tokyo Control responds with a turn heading 280. reduced to final approach speed, cleared straight in runway 34 right, wind calm, emergency equipment in position. Emma banks the aircraft, lines up with the runway, 23 miles away, visible now through the windscreen, a thin line of concrete across Tokyo Bay. They might make it if nothing else goes wrong, if Emma can fly the perfect energy profile, if Yuki's instincts are right, 9,000 feet, 8,500. The 777 descends like a stone with wings, beautiful, graceful, deadly. Harold sits motionless, silent. He's not flying, not helping, not even acknowledging what's happening. He's just there, a liability, a cautionary tale in a captain's uniform. Yuki stands behind the center console, watching, calculating, ready, because she knows something Harold doesn't, something Emma hasn't figured out yet. This isn't over. The hardest part is still coming. And when it does, Yuki Tanaka, Commander Tanaka, Japanese Navy, 4,000 hours, dual engine failure specialist, will be ready. She's been ready for 16 years. 7,000 feet. The 777 glides toward runway 34R, 6 miles from touchdown. The aircraft is stable, configured, on profile. Emma is flying it perfectly. Precise airspeed control, exact glide path, textbook emergency management. But something is wrong. The APU is running, providing power, but it's straining, temperature climbing, not designed to run continuously under this load. The backup power unit was meant for ground operations and emergency starting, not sustaining an entire aircraft electrical system during flight. An amber caution illuminates. A PU overheat. Emma sees it. Her stomach drops. If the APU fails, they lose electrical power, lose hydraulics, lose flight controls. A 777 without power is a 300-ton brick. She reports the APU temperature rising, approaching limit. Harold doesn't respond. He's staring out the windscreen, disconnected, useless. Yuki steps forward. Her eyes scan the overhead panel, the electrical system schematic, the hydraulic pressure gauges. She's reading the aircraft systems the way she used to read helicopter systems, translating, adapting, understanding. She tells Emma to reduce electrical load, shed non-essential systems, keep the APU temperature down. Emma's hands move to the electrical panel, start switching off systems, cabin lights, entertainment, galley power, anything not critical for flight. The APU temperature stops climbing, stabilizes, still high, still dangerous, but stable. 5,000 feet, 4 miles to touchdown. Tokyo Tower clears them to land. Runway 34R, wind calm. Emergency equipment standing by. Emma acknowledges, lowers the landing gear. 3 green lights confirm gear down and locked. She extends flaps incrementally, 30 degrees, the maximum recommended for unpowered landing. Any more and they'll bleed too much energy, any less and the landing speed will be too high. The 777 descends through 3,000 feet, 2,500. The runway is clear ahead, long, wide, empty. Emergency vehicles lined up alongside, fire trucks, ambulances, waiting. Harold finally speaks. His voice is hoarse. He tells Emma he can take it from here. Emma glances at him. His hands are still shaking. His eyes are unfocused. He hasn't flown the aircraft once during this entire emergency. He's been a passenger in the captain's seat. She tells him negative. She has the aircraft. Harold's face flushes red. He insists he's the captain. He decides who flies. Emma's response is flat, factual, devastating. She tells him he froze. He stopped her from starting the APU. He endangered everyone on board. He's not flying this landing. It's the first time Emma has stood up to him. The first time she's called him out. And in this moment, 2,000 feet above Tokyo Bay, gliding a dead aircraft toward a runway, she has every ounce of authority she needs. Harold slumps in his seat, defeated. He knows she's right. Everyone knows. 1,000 feet, 1 mile out. The 777 is heavy, gliding fast. No engines to provide go-around capability. No thrust to correct mistakes. One chance, one approach, land or crash. Emma's flying is surgical, airspeed exactly on target, glide slope perfect, lateral alignment centered. Her hands are steady now. The fear is gone, replaced by focus, precision, competence. Yuki watches from behind, impressed. This young woman, dismissed by Harold, talked down to, told she doesn't belong, is flying a flawless emergency approach. She belongs in this cockpit more than Harold ever did. 500 feet. The runway rushes up, white centerline markers, numbers painted large. 34R, 300 feet. Emma begins the flare, pulls back gently on the yoke. The nose rises slightly, bleeding speed. Preparing for touchdown, 100 feet, 50 feet, 20 feet. The main gear kisses the runway. Smooth, professional, perfect. The nose gear follows. Emma deploys spoilers, maximum braking. The 777 slows rapidly. They're down, safe, alive. The cabin erupts, passengers applauding, crying, hugging. 350 people who didn't know they were seconds from disaster. 350 people who just witnessed the most professional emergency landing most of them will ever see. Emergency vehicles race alongside the aircraft as it slows. Fire trucks, rescue crews. But there's no fire, no damage. Just a silent aircraft rolling to a stop on runway 34R. Emma sets the parking brake. Her hands are shaking now, adrenaline crash, post-emergency release. She did it, they did it. Harold sits motionless, staring straight ahead, silent. Yuki places a hand on Emma's shoulder, tells her outstanding work. Emma turns, sees something in Yuki's eyes. Recognition, respect, understanding, one pilot to another. Wait. Emma asks if Yuki is a pilot. Yuki smiles, tells her Commander Yuki Tanaka, Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, retired, SH-60K helicopters 14 years, 4,300 hours, dual engine failure specialist. The cockpit goes silent. Emma stares. Harold's head snaps around. Disbelief on his face. Emma can't process it. Yuki was Navy, a commander, and she's working as a flight attendant. Yuki explains she chose this life. Less stress, more time with family, but she's still a pilot, always will be. Emma's eyes fill with tears, not from fear, from gratitude, from vindication. The woman Harold told doesn't belong in aviation just saved his life, and she's got more flight hours than he does. The irony is so perfect it hurts. Airport operations arrives, opens the cabin door, begins passenger evacuation. 350 people slide down emergency slides, confused, scared, but alive. All of them alive. Yuki returns to the cabin, helps with evacuation, calm, professional, exactly what she's supposed to be. Flight attendants don't get credit, don't get recognition. They do their job and disappear into the background. But not today. Passengers recognize her, the woman who entered the cockpit, who helped save them. They stop her, thank her. Some are crying. Some want to shake her hand. A teenager asks for a selfie. An elderly woman kisses her cheek. Yuki accepts it all with grace. Humility. She didn't do this for glory. She did it because it needed to be done. On the tarmac, investigators are already swarming. Japan Transport Safety Board, airline corporate, FAA observers. This will be the biggest aviation story of the year. Dual engine failure, successful unpowered landing, 0 casualties. Someone films the evacuation, posts it to social media. Within minutes, it's viral. Within an hour, news helicopters are circling. Within 3 hours, the story is global. The video shows passengers praising the crew, specifically praising the flight attendant who helped in the cockpit. Someone recognizes the uniform, identifies the airline. Names appear: Emma Chen, Yuki Tanaka. By evening, a passenger who works in journalism has dug deeper, found Yuki's military record, her Navy service, her qualifications. The headline writes itself. Former Navy commander working as flight attendant helps save 350 lives after dual engine failure. The airline's corporate office explodes. Public relations scrambles. CEO wants answers. Who is Yuki Tanaka? Why is a qualified pilot working as a flight attendant? Did HR know about her background? Turns out they didn't. Yuki never mentioned it. Didn't think it mattered. She applied for a flight attendant position, got hired, did her job. That was enough for her, but it's not enough for the world. The story is too perfect, too powerful. Woman told she doesn't belong in aviation saves everyone after arrogant captain freezes. The media runs with it, interviews, news segments, aviation experts analyzing the flight, passengers giving testimonials. One passenger, a retired airline captain, recorded audio of the final approach. In it, you can hear Emma's calm professional calls, the APU warning, Yuki's voice in the background encouraging Emma. That audio becomes legendary in aviation circles, played in crew resource management training, studied in emergency procedure courses, a textbook example of teamwork, competence, grace under pressure. Harold Voss disappears from public view. The investigation concludes quickly. Flight data recorder shows everything. His hesitation, his refusal to let Emma start the APU, his complete failure to function during the emergency. Witnesses from the briefing room come forward, report his comments about women in aviation. The airline doesn't want a lawsuit, doesn't want the publicity. They offer Harold a choice: retire immediately with full pension or face formal investigation and likely termination for cause. He retires, effective immediately. 3 months later, Harold Voss is living in a small apartment in Chiba Prefecture, divorced, alone. His pilot license is suspended pending review. His application for reinstatement is denied twice. He takes a job as a flight dispatcher. Ground operations, no cockpit, no command, no authority. He watches younger pilots, male and female, taxi past his office window, heading to flights he'll never fly again. He sees their confidence, their competence, their collaboration, everything he pretended to have, everything he actually lacked. Emma Chen is promoted to captain 6 months later. Youngest female 777 captain in the airline's history. She's assigned to mentor new first officers, teach them crew resource management, show them what real leadership looks like. She never mentions Harold Voss by name, but everyone knows the story. Everyone understands the lesson. Yuki Tanaka becomes a legend. The airline offers her a management position, training department, designing emergency procedures. She declines. She likes working with passengers, likes the simplicity of cabin service. But she does accept one thing: a special recognition from the Japanese government, Civilian Medal of Honor, presented by the Prime Minister for extraordinary heroism. The ceremony makes international news. Yuki stands in her flight attendant uniform, service pins polished, not a detail out of place, accepting an award few civilians ever receive. In her brief speech, she delivers a message that resonates globally. Her exact words: "I did what any qualified person would do. Gender doesn't matter. Experience matters. Training matters. Competence matters. Women belong in aviation. We always have. We always will." The applause lasts 4 minutes. Aviation policy changes ripple outward. Airlines review their procedures for dual engine failures. Training programs add scenarios. Crew resource management courses emphasize the Flight 258 case study. The FAA issues new guidelines. EEASA follows. ICAO adopts recommendations. Flight 258 becomes a turning point, not just for emergency procedures, for culture, for respect, for recognizing that competence has no gender. 2 years later, the aviation industry publishes new guidance on crew resource management. The document explicitly states safety concerns raised by any crew member, regardless of position, must be acknowledged, documented, and addressed through established channels. It's called the Tanaka Protocol, named after Yuki. Airlines worldwide adopt it, training programs teach it, regulators enforce it, and somewhere in classrooms full of aspiring pilots, instructors tell the story of Flight 258, the captain who told women they don't belong, the flight attendant who saved his life, the career that ended because someone thought pride was stronger than procedures. It becomes legend, cautionary tale, required reading. The lesson is simple. In aviation, competence matters more than ego. Training matters more than bravado, and the person you underestimate might be the person who saves you from yourself. Harold Cole learned that lesson 3 years too late. Yuki Tanaka knew it all along. On February 14, 2026, the 2-year anniversary of Flight 258, Emma Chen captains a 777 from Tokyo to Los Angeles. Same route, same aircraft type. Different outcome. In the back galley, a young flight attendant asks Emma about that day, about the emergency, about what it felt like. Emma thinks for a moment, then gives an answer that surprises the young woman. She tells her it felt like justice. The flight attendant doesn't understand, not yet. But someday, maybe she will. Somewhere over the Pacific at 37,000 feet, Emma Chen flies her aircraft with confidence, competence, command, exactly where she belongs. And in Tokyo, preparing for her evening shift, Yuki Tanaka pins her service badges to her uniform. 16 years, 4,000 flight hours, Medal of Honor recipient. She doesn't need anyone's permission to belong. She never did.